post this. Okay. Take it away, Greg.
All right. Well, thank you for the introduction. Let me share my screen and make sure. Can you all see the slides? Okay. Well, I will admit, we don't actually. We've seen the pictures of Simon wearing the glasses. We don't know if they're ours. We don't have any certainty that, at least we don't believe that he purchased them directly. So, like, it's possible he may have had somebody purchase on his behalf, and obviously probably doesn't want to give away free product promotion if he is using Theraspecs. So but maybe he is, and it'd be cool if he is. Regardless, we're obviously happy that hopefully he's found something that is working for his symptoms. And that's ultimately what I'm here to talk to you all about, which is therapeutic eyewear, and in particular a specific tint known as FL41, which is one of the products that we offer at Theraspecs. So I'm gonna touch on sort of the evolution of FL41, how it's used, how it's helpful for people with traumatic brain injury, but also people who do have migraine, headache disorders, really any kind of light sensitivity. And then I'll talk a little bit more about the specific products that we make at Theraspecs. So without further ado, I'm going to get right into it, and I'm going to start kind of at the beginning, which I'm sure many of you here already know about, which is that light sensitivity has a sizable impact on people who have had a traumatic brain injury. Obviously, there are dozens of conditions where light sensitivity can be a symptom. I named a few of them already: migraine, headache disorders, also things like visual snow. More recently, people who have had long COVID are developing headaches and light sensitivity associated with that. But in particular for TBI, like, it is, as you see on the screen here, it is the most common visual symptom after a concussion. Now, and that's just referring to mild TBI, mild traumatic brain injuries. If you have a more moderate or severe TBI, you're likely experiencing the same kind of, like, just harmful impact of light sensitivity. And beyond just like feeling pain when you're exposed to light, there actually are quite a few symptoms associated with light exposure. So I've listed just a handful of kind of the most common ones on the screen, but things like blurry vision, headache, dizziness, even psychological and mood changes like anxiety, anger. A lot of times people who are light sensitive feel like anxious when they're going to go to a place where they know either they can't control the lighting or they expect the lighting to be, painful and triggering. And even more than just symptoms, like the physical effects, there are kind of other signs as well that might indicate that a person is light sensitive. Some of the most common ones that we encounter are somebody who is wearing sunglasses indoors or only wants to wear sunglasses indoors. Somebody who knows that when they go to Costco, like, they just start to feel dizzy, or they feel the onset of symptoms. If they're in front of a screen, even flashing lights can be very disorienting. So there's a lot of different ways and clues that can indicate light sensitivity, even if it isn't necessarily obvious or sort of a direct diagnosis from a doctor. So, and when we talk about like why this happens at all, we of course look to the two main kind of connectors, which is the eye and the brain. And particularly in the brain, for somebody who has light sensitivity, and just a note, you might hear me refer to it or see it on the screen as photophobia, which is more of like the medical term for it, but they're referring to the same thing. And so for somebody who does have photophobia, they're more likely to have a reduced tolerance for light in general. And so I'm like, as an example, I'm not somebody who is light sensitive. I could walk out on this bright Arizona day where I'm located without sunglasses, and as long as I'm not staring directly into the sun, like, I will be fine. Like, that, even though it's really bright, that indirect light is not bothersome to me. Somebody who does have that light sensitivity probably isn't going to make it very long without eyewear, period. And even with like dark sunglasses, they might still feel that the light is too bright or that it's causing them to feel a negative reaction. So that's one thing that's occurring. Another thing is that certain types of light emit an invisible pulsing. So I think you mentioned flicker previously, and like fluorescence, some LEDs are known to emit this invisible pulsing, and we don't actually see it with our eyes, but our brains pick it up. And people who have photophobia are just have a heightened sensitivity to that. And then this last one, which sort of leads directly into the therapeutic eyewear and FL41, is research has shown that certain wavelengths are just more likely to cause problems for people who are photophobic. And in particular, if you look at the entire visible light spectrum here, it's not that like, oh, UV light is bad or all blue light is bad. I mean, there's certainly studies and questions around all of that, but at least in the research, it's specifically 480 to 520 nanometers, which is blue borderline green light, that are the wavelengths that are most likely to trigger pain and other symptoms for people with light sensitivity. And so not all light is necessarily considered equal in that regard. And the fact is, this light is like these wavelengths are everywhere. They are in the lights from our screens, the fluorescence overhead in an office building or a big box store, grocery store. They are in abundance outdoors as well. Like we are exposed to these wavelengths regularly through all of the different light sources that we encounter. And ultimately that means like somebody who has that light sensitivity has the risk of having their symptoms activated or triggered or worsened when they're exposed to these light sources. And I mentioned the invisible pulsing too. So then you have a compounding problem with like fluorescence and some LEDs where this invisible pulsing is not seen, not visible to the eye, but it's picked up by the brain. And on top of that, it's most intense in the blue spectrum. So it's like not only are you getting exposed to the most harmful wavelengths for you as a person with photophobia, but like if it's from one of these light sources, like certain older style fluorescents and LEDs, like now you're getting that pulsing effect, and it's just aggravating and activating your brain in a negative way. And so this led in the early 1990s to the development of a specialty tint called FL41 that specifically targets these harmful wavelengths, that band between 480 and 520. And it's what kind of gives it that sort of rosy, dusty rose color hue that you see on the screen. And over, like, since its creation, there's been sort of different studies that they've sort of trialed the tint in. And so you can see some of the results here. Obviously, in particular, migraine and headache disorders is a big focus area given the number and the percentage of patients who have light sensitivity. And so there's been a reporting of 74% reduction of migraine frequency that was sustained over the course of several months. But even more broadly, like utilizing the FL41 tint has shown to reduce photophobia, general sensitivity to fluorescent lighting, also reducing the effects of that invisible pulsing that I talked about as well. And even more recently, this tint, FL41, has become an incredible tool for people with traumatic brain injuries, and especially that photophobia associated with traumatic brain injuries. So I have one example just here on the screen from a case study in one of the research journals where it was a male soldier, had a minor brain injury, went back to work with FL41 glasses, and after 4 months, like his symptoms had improved dramatically. So it's just continuing to sort of see that and see this tint recommended for that patient population. And so that led to the launch of Theraspecs in 2012. We, as Lynn alluded to earlier, our co-founder and CEO, Hart Schaefer, as he likes to tell the story, like our first customer was his wife, Carrie. And it was their personal search for relief that inspired them to start it. And in particular, so Hart has always had like episodic migraine attacks with light sensitivity, but Carrie in particular has had chronic daily headaches and light sensitivity for years. And they learned about the tint, I believe, through their doctor. But when they went to actually try to find it, they couldn't really find it anywhere. If they did, it wasn't very affordable, and or it wasn't very consistent. Like it wasn't what they were reading about or hearing about in the research and what the actual tint should be in the wavelengths that were being removed. And so Hart, being the entrepreneur that he is, said, you know what, I can do better for my wife and for anybody else who has light sensitivity. So I'm going to strive to make Theraspecs accessible, affordable, and really in alignment with the research that has been done on the tint. And so that's where you see this graph here, like in the band of the targeted wavelengths there, that 480 to 520, Theraspecs are scooping out 80% of that light in our indoor lens. And so that's where the biggest drop is happening, because we're really focused on the most critical, the most harmful wavelengths for people who have light sensitivity. And this is in accordance and in alignment with what the research showed. So it's really important to us to make a lens that matched that, to give people who have those symptoms the right kind of relief that they need. But I also want to emphasize, like, FL41 is more than just a tint, it's more than a color. So, you know, a lot of times people might think like, oh, I could find rose colored glasses, you know, in the store or whatever, and like those should be fine because it looks similar. But in reality, it is a precision tint that's on the lenses. And similarly, like there's a lot of variation even between brands of FL41 glasses. Now, I will say always that in general, if you have a real FL41 pair of glasses, whether it's from Theraspecs or some other brand, as long as it is legitimately FL41 in some form, even with the variations, it's going to be more effective than a pair of like blue light glasses that's clear or even a slight yellow tint. So it's definitely better than those types of eyewear options. But even amongst FL41 products, there can be a big difference. So you can see, like, we've looked at a couple of different brands that offer FL41. Not only can there be a visual difference, so one in particular offered more of a like kind of purplish, soft purple lens. So the color and the visual impression of it might be different, but the filtering at that 480 and starting at that 480 can be very different as well. And so you see that we filter as much as 70% more in that critical band. That's so important. And I mentioned blue light glasses. So another thing that's kind of had a big wave recently, as people, you know, are more on their screens, more exposed to light, more concerned about their long-term eye health. And again, for somebody who has photophobia, like Theraspecs or FL41 in general is going to be better than a clear blue light lens or yellow blue light lens, because they're not targeting those wavelengths. They're not designed to do that. In general, like they're mostly focused on either near UV light, so kind of in that 400 nanometers to 420, or, you know, kind of in the 440, 450 range, which, you know, may lead to like eye strain or general headaches. But again, somebody who has photophobia, that 480 to 520 is the unfortunate sweet spot for light that triggers symptoms. And to give you an example of how we compare, Theraspecs in particular, I mean, we are blocking way more than like an off-the-shelf clear blue light lens or a yellow tinted computer glasses lens or gaming glasses lens. So just significantly more protective and more effective. And that's what has allowed us over 10 years to give the kind of relief to people that we do. I've said it, I actually said it even earlier today, like I still love hearing the stories of the people that we help every day, because it's unbelievable. And then on top of that, we're working with medical professionals, working with organizations such as Power Patients to further like just share how Theraspecs can be an option for people with light sensitivity, and especially those who also have have that photophobia associated with a TBI. So it's just been really awesome, and it helps us help people like Danny get back to their lives. I mean, Danny was somebody who he was had a TBI as a result of his military service, a lot of other compounding conditions as well, super sensitive to light. Theraspecs have allowed him to go do the things that he couldn't previously. And he's not feeling the stress, not feeling the pain, not feeling the symptoms as a result of wearing his Theraspecs. So I want to kind of pivot a little bit and talk about also another key thing beyond the tint and the lens itself. The frame can also be critical in the effectiveness of Theraspecs in any kind of therapeutic eyewear. So we have a wide variety of frames, all available, on our website at theraspecs.com. But really, the key thing that we've focused on with what we offer in terms of style, of course, yes, we want to make cute frames that people will be willing to wear, but we also want to add some additional protective and comfort features in certain places as well. Because, like, for example, somebody who already wears prescription glasses, we do offer prescription lenses, but it's a custom item. It can take up to 3 weeks to make. Somebody who tries one of our fit overs, they can wear that over their glasses right away, see how the tint works for them, and decide if they want to, move forward with a prescription pair. In addition, our fit overs are very protective on the top and side. We have wraparound frames as well. These are frames that hug the face and can block light coming in from the top or the sides, which can be another big kind of pain point for people who are light sensitive. It may not be enough just to block the light that's directly in their eyes. We do have lens or frames that have the large lenses as well. So blocking that direct light is, critically important. We have frames that have that kind of protection. And we also have frames that are extremely lightweight. So all of our options are designed to be as lightweight as possible, but we have even a selection of frames as well that are incredibly lightweight, because people who have that kind of sensory sensitivity can also be sensitive to added weight or pressure on their face. So even just something as simple as putting a pair of glasses on might be triggering for somebody who has light sensitivity. And so we want to minimize that as much as possible. So we have these frames that are just super, super lightweight. And we offer other ways to customize their relief. So this is, again, a critically important thing for patients, because we want them to have the kind of Theraspecs that they need for their particular situation. And so, for example, they can send us a frame. You all could send us a frame today and we'll make lenses for it, which is a really cool feature. So if you don't see one of the, or don't particularly like or feel like we offer a frame that you're looking for, you can send us one and we'll make lenses. We can make any pair with or without prescription. We can also do readers. It does take a little bit longer, like I mentioned, around 3 weeks, because it is a custom item, but we can do it. And again, can be a great way to customize. And then we can go darker or lighter on the tint, depending on need as well. So we're always going to recommend starting with one of our standard options, but in particular, we offer an extra light version of our indoor lens, which is light enough to be worn to drive at night, which I know is a big issue for a lot of people. And so that's an option that we have. We can go darker as well. So it's just all dependent on patient need. And that's really what I wanted to talk about. But I will say, so like I mentioned, Theraspecs.com, all of our options that I've talked about today are there. We do have a special code just for you all, POP 2023, and get $15 off any order today. So feel free to use that code, and I am available for questions or comments. Oh, I think you may be muted.
Thank you, Greg. So folks, we have 10 minutes before we get abruptly cut off, because we love Zoom and it keeps us on time. One thing you said, and Martina, I saw your comment about Zeiss, and they're very expensive, Zeiss, and that's prescription level, and that's the difference as well too. what I was going to ask you was if you could wear your lenses inside or outside and if something happens, but you kind of answered that because of the specialty lenses for me.
Yeah. Yeah. So we do have an indoor lens and an outdoor lens. So we don't offer like a transition lens. I know a lot of times people are curious about that. That's because neither version is as good together as they are separate. So if you are somebody who is sensitive both indoors and outdoors, like we would recommend getting an indoor pair and an outdoor pair. The difference between the outdoor, well, from the indoor pair to the outdoor pair is the outdoor pair still utilizes the same filtering, but it is dark and it is polarized. So definitely going to be good for a bright day, but also helps with glare outside. The one thing that I think we're alluding to is that we don't recommend wearing outdoor, either our outdoor glasses or sunglasses, period, indoors because that can worsen light sensitivity over time. Like just if you're wearing it all the time, like if light's constantly bothersome and you're like, you know what, I need to wear sunglasses all the time indoors, that's generally not going to be a good idea because of that. And then you have the social factors as well. People thinking maybe you're hiding something or you're hungover, especially if you're not, overtly open about like what you're going through in terms of your health.
Okay. Daryl and then Betsy.
I'm not sure if you answered this question. I just missed it, but uh, normally, when the sunglasses that I wear, they the lens, not the lens, the I guess the lens to cover my ears, they normally break easily. So, uh, how well do they do these lens hold?
Yeah, good question. So all of our lenses meet, at least the lenses meet impact resistant standard. So that's certainly helpful. Like I would not like we have there's a special designation for like safety glasses, for example. So somebody who's actually going to be using these in a in an environment where they could be exposed to something that hits the lenses, like they would need something separate. We can make those, but that's not by default. Our frames similarly, like they are designed with materials that are meant to help be held like hold up and just kind of meet the needs of everyday usage. So there really shouldn't be any issues with the frames. They're also adjustable, and if for some reason there was a breakage of any type, like you just let us know. We have a 1-year warranty on all of our frames and glasses. So anything that isn't like, you accidentally stepped on them, they broke accidentally or something like that, that would be, covered by our warranty.
Okay, Betsy, go ahead.
Yeah, do you know why for some of us cloudy days actually cause more eye pain and headaches than sun?
So I don't know why, but that is unbelievably common. I have heard that a lot, and so actually that's where like we even recommend on our website and in various places like our indoor lens can be great for cloudy days because it's not as dark as sunglasses, but gives you that protection. But yeah, I don't know like the specific underpinnings of why exactly that occurs, but it is we hear it a lot.
And I'm going to echo that, Betty. My daughter had to have different lenses and they had to wrap up to her head because her sensitivity was so severe. And I didn't know about Theraspecs. And trust me, had I, mine bill was way more expensive. And I was like, are you kidding? You need more? And she goes, you don't understand. It has something, one of the doctors had told me it had something to do with the light rays and the way that it bends, and it's slightly different. So that's all I do know because I'm not an optics person myself. But one of the things to also remember, this will go on our Sally channel, our YouTube channel. I'll send all of this out along with Greg. Do you want your contact info included in addition to the website and the code? So I'll send that out in the email, everybody. And you can also ask Greg directly any questions if we didn't answer them here. The one thing I think we have a few more maybe minutes or seconds is flicker rate. right? It wasn't really discussed, and I don't know if you have that capability to dive into that, because on the computer, the flicker is what we were learning with the doctor, how it was impacting our eyes.
Yeah, so this is definitely not an area where I'm a big time expert. My kind of basic understanding is that like certain devices, I think LEDs in particular, like in order for them to function, like they essentially pulse, like they do this, you know, and most of the time we don't actually see it, but our brains can pick it up. And so actually our Hart, who is again our CEO and co-founder, like he actually did kind of a deep dive on this himself. I'd be happy to sort of pull up some of what he found, but like specific settings on the computer, like for example, as like these were the best ones, like these are the ones that didn't hurt me the most, like essentially, you know, and he really like spent some time trying to understand like how the settings on the screen and on our devices could be impacting, you know, our eyes and our brains, particularly those who are sensitive to it. So I'll see if I can dig that up, and I'll
Yeah,
share that with you all, because he's definitely more of the expert than I am on that. But it's definitely a you know, an issue.
yeah, awesome. Does anybody have any other questions before we do sign off? And yes, Cassie.
Hey, oh, let me put this back in. Well, just wanted to say thank you so much for being on today and sharing your information. And I know I have both blue and purple picked up at Walmart. It's cheap, but it's what I use. And this goes with my gold shirt today. Look, bling. They're kind of Tony Stark, though. What do you guys think? Tony Stark?
I like him.
Yeah. All right, but I share this information out and I share it out with
Yeah,
our clients. So just want to say thank you and
sure. Yeah.
appreciate everybody's time today. Thank you
Yeah,
for
you're
having me.
welcome. She's a good person to have in your back pocket, Greg. So don't
Yeah,
be
thank you.
by her silliness. Mwah. All right. Hey, listen, I can't believe we're on time. This is not like us. Obviously, I'm getting much stricter with everybody. All right, if there's no further questions, we have one more before the end of the year. And my cousin is on, Keith. Keith, I see you. There you are. And what I think I'd like to do for the end of the year is to do a round robin. A lot of you survivors and caregivers have created products yourselves, books and things like that. And so what I want to do for our November webinar is to showcase all of you. So you can talk about your book, you can sell your book, you can, you know, bring other people on board. So that's going to be our November webinar. So Keith, you get your materials ready, okay? You're on mute. He's still on mute. Cousin, you're on mute. He's going to make us get all kicked off now. Watch this.
There we go. There we go.
There you
What's up,
go.
cuz?
How are you,
What's
cousin?
Hey, I'm blessed, black and holly, baby, cuz. Yeah, what's going on?
All right,
I,
did
I,
you hear?
I made it kind of late, but I lost track of time. I didn't realize it was 3 o'clock. I
It's
set
okay.
in stone waiting on the 3 o'clock. There's a jet and I was sitting down and my eyes got to looking at the TV screen,